Hey everybody, you know most cities of course are designed around roads, but not here. These cities are built without cars or highways and instead rely on different methods of transportation. Stay with me, I'm counting down 15 cities with no roads. Starting with number 15, Hilterorn in the Netherlands. So I can never pronounce this town right, but Hilterorn is a village in the Netherlands that's often referred to as the Venice of the Netherlands, and unlike most urban settlements, this has no traditional road network. Instead, transportation is primarily water-based, utilizing an extensive network of canals that run between homes, gardens, and public spaces. Established in the 13th century by peat harvesters, the village developed gradually around a series of shallow lakes and man-made canals used for transporting peat by small boats. The village itself has more than 90 kilometers of narrow waterways, along with over 170 wooden footbridges that connect the various parcels of land. Boats, particularly silent electric whisper boats and punts, are the main modes of transportation. The village's design has made it a unique case study in low-impact living and tourism-oriented infrastructure. Homes, many of which date back several centuries, are built directly along the canals with private docks instead of driveways, and delivery services and waste collection also operate via boat. The village's no-road model isn't a result of modern urban planning, but rather a necessity and adaptation. The surrounding peat bogs and wetlands made traditional road construction impractical for much of the village's early history. This layout was preserved through the centuries due to a combination of constraints, preservation, and a lack of demand for urban development. The village is still inhabited, of course, with around 2,600 permanent residents. Children attend local schools, groceries are delivered by boat, and some residents own cars but park them at the edges of the village. Hilterorn remains one of the best-known examples of a functioning modern community that operates largely without roads. Its balance of tourism, residential life, and environmental integration has made it a model of non-traditional urban living. Number 14, Zermatt, Switzerland. Zermatt, a mountain resort town located in the canton of Valais in southern Switzerland near to the Italian border, sits at an elevation of 1,608 meters, that's about 5,200 feet, above the Matterhorn. Despite its popularity, Zermatt has maintained a strict ban on internal combustion vehicles within the town. There are no traditional roads used by gas-powered vehicles in the town center, and all transportation within the city is either electric, human-powered, or horse-drawn. Now, the decision to restrict the car traffic dates back to the mid-20th century, and it was primarily driven by concerns over air pollution, noise, and the preservation of the town's natural environment. Since then, Zermatt has become a model of a car-free alpine settlement. Visitors are not allowed to drive into the town. Instead, they have to park in the nearby village of Tasch, located about 5 kilometers away. Once inside the town, though, the primary modes of transport are walking, electric taxis, electric buses, and bicycles. The town does have a well-developed network of pedestrian paths and sidewalks, allowing residents and tourists to move efficiently between the hotels and shops. Horse-drawn carriages, although used more for tourism than necessity, still operate here and offer an additional low-impact form of mobility. In the winter months, sleds and snow-clearing electric equipment maintain mobility through the snow-covered areas. There are no gas stations in the town, and fuel-based transport is not permitted on any public roads. This lack of car traffic has resulted in noticeable environmental benefits. Zermatt regularly records air quality metrics significantly better than those comparable alpine towns that permit vehicles. The absence of vehicle noise, too, has also contributed to a quieter, more tranquil environment. Sounds great. Noise pollution is minimal, and the views of surrounding peaks are unobstructed by road infrastructure or even parked cars. All goods and supplies needed by local businesses, let's say, are brought in by rail or specialized electric freight vehicles. Waste is collected by electric trucks, and construction materials are distributed using electric carts or small cranes where necessary. Zermatt remains a functioning modern town with a full range of services, schools, and health facilities. It is inhabited year-round and has a permanent population of around 5,800. The town's infrastructure has adapted completely to life without cars, showing that it is possible to run a busy alpine community without relying on fossil fuel vehicles or traditional roads. Number 13, Supai, Arizona. Supai. It's a small community located within the Havasupai Indian Reservation at the bottom of the Grand Canyon in Arizona. It is widely recognized as the most remote community in the contiguous United States. Supai is not connected by any roads to the outside world, and there are no cars within the village, and the only access is by an 8-mile trail from the nearest road by helicopter or by pack mule. The Havasupai people have lived in this area for over 1,000 years, and Supai is the capital of their tribal nation. The village has a permanent population of about 200 people. It is the only place in the United States where mail is still delivered by mule, a practice that continues due to the area's inaccessibility by vehicle. The lack of roads is a permanent condition due to the steep terrain here. No infrastructure project has ever extended a road to Supai, and within the village all travel is done on foot or horseback. Tourism here is a major part of their economy. Visitors hike in to see the nearby Havasu Falls and other waterfalls, which are located within the tribal land. Permits, of course, are required, and tourism is tightly controlled to manage environmental impact. Visitors must hike the same 8-mile path into the canyon or book a helicopter ride, which operates only on certain days and is weather dependent. The Havasupai have maintained a way of life that is deeply connected to their land, and the absence of roads is part of that identity. Modern infrastructure like electricity and telecommunications has reached the area in limited form, but the core transportation limitations remain. Supai offers a rare example of a permanent U.S. settlement that functions entirely without road access. It's adapted its systems around foot traffic and helicopter service while maintaining self-governance and cultural continuity. Its isolation poses challenges, yeah, but it also preserves a way of life distinct from any other town in the country. Number 12. Halibut Cove, Alaska. Halibut Cove, a small, tasty, roadless community located across the Kachemak Bay from the city of Homer in Alaska, has a population of fewer than 100 residents and is accessible only by boat or float plane. There's no roads or cars in Halibut Cove. Instead, residents and visitors travel on a network of raised wooden boardwalks and small boats. The entire community is surrounded by water and mountainous terrain, which makes traditional road building impractical. Many homes built along the shoreline are accessible only by private dock or boardwalk. Boat transportation here is the primary way people move around, including for grocery delivery, mail, construction materials, and fuel. During the summer months, there's a small passenger ferry that runs between Homer and Halibut Cove, but no vehicle ferry operates due to the lack of road infrastructure on either side of the landing. Here in Halibut Cove, they've got limited public services. There's no schools or medical centers in the community, and children are either homeschooled or travel to Homer for education. Medical emergencies typically require evacuation by boat or air. Electricity and telecommunications are available in the area, supplied through private utilities or solar installations, but infrastructure remains minimal to preserve the natural setting. Halibut Cove's roadless status is a result of its isolated geography and a community decision to remain small-scale and ecologically conscious. Its isolation in a marine-rich environment allows for a self-contained lifestyle where access to modern conveniences is balanced by reliance on traditional and low-impact forms of mobility. It demonstrates how a functioning community can exist without cars or roads, using a marine and pedestrian infrastructure to maintain daily life. It remains a rare example in North America of a settlement where road-based development has never been introduced and likely never will be. Number 11. Mackinac Island in Michigan. Mackinac Island is located in Lake Huron between Michigan's upper and lower peninsulas. It's known not only for its preservation and tourism appeal, but also for being a functioning community with no automobiles. Since 1898, motor vehicles have been banned on the island, making it one of the longest-standing car-free communities in the U.S. The ban was originally introduced to protect the island's horses and pedestrians from what were then considered loud and dangerous machines. The rule has remained in effect for over a century. The island covers about 3.8 square miles, and it's home to roughly 500 year-round residents. During the summer tourist season, the population swells dramatically, with hundreds of thousands of visitors arriving by ferry from the mainland. Despite the increase in people, the ban on cars is strictly enforced. Transportation here consists of walking, bicycles, and horse-drawn carriages. The island's infrastructure has been built around its roadless status. There are no traffic lights, intersections, or vehicle noise, which is awesome. Streets, they're wide enough for carriages and cyclists. They're maintained by a local public works team that uses non-motorized tools whenever possible. Bicycles are the most common mode of transportation here, and rental shops line the main ferry dock for visitors. The island, of course, has homes, businesses, schools, churches, and even a hospital. All of these operate without the support of vehicle transport. During the winter months, transportation to and from the island depends on aircraft or snowmobiles crossing the frozen lake surface. However, even during the coldest months, internal transportation remains car-free. Mackinac Island's no-car policy has become one of its key attractions. Tourists are drawn to the quiet atmosphere, the historic buildings, and the novelty of moving through a town with no cars. The island's consistent enforcement of its no-car rule, combined with a full set of municipal services and year-round residency, makes it one of the most complete examples of a functioning city area with no roads used by cars. The absence of vehicles has shaped every aspect of its development and daily life. Number 10. Fadioth, Senegal. Fadioth is a small island village in Senegal connected by a wooden footbridge to the mainland town of Joal. Now, what sets it apart is the complete lack of roads or motorized vehicles. The island is built entirely from seashells, millions of them accumulated over the centuries from the local shellfish industry. Streets, paths, and even the cemetery are made of crushed shells, forming a natural hard surface for foot traffic. Now, the island itself is home to about 9,000 people and is densely populated considering its small land area. The entire island is navigable by foot, and all transportation is conducted either on foot or by wooden pirogues or canoes that are used to cross tidal channels or reach nearby fishing areas. The economy is centered on fishing, shellfish harvesting, and small-scale tourism. Fish are brought in daily by local boats and processed or sold in markets on the island. Because the village is so compact, most residents live within walking distance of their work, school, or place of worship. The island includes multiple churches and mosques, reflecting the mixed religious demographics of its population. A standout feature here is the Shell Cemetery, which is located on a nearby islet and connected by a wooden footbridge. This cemetery is used both by the island's Muslim and Christian populations, and it's made entirely of crushed seashells, just like the village itself. Visitors come to see the unique burial site and the unusual landscape, which is white and textured due to the shells. Access from the mainland is by a pedestrian-only bridge about 500 meters long that spans a tidal inlet. Supplies and larger goods arrive via this bridge, carried by people or transported using push carts. In some cases, boats are used for bringing in heavier items. The absence of motor vehicles here isn't the result of a government ban, but rather by the outcome of geography and its traditions. The narrow layout, the fragile substrate, and reliance on fishing culture all have contributed to maintaining a pedestrian-only environment. It is an example of a roadless town that's not isolated, but instead integrated into the national economy while also preserving its own spatial norms. Number 9. Lamu, Kenya. Lamu is a coastal town on Lamu Island in Kenya, part of the Lamu archipelago in the Indian Ocean. It is one of the oldest and best preserved Swahili settlements in East Africa, with origins tracing back to the 14th century. The town is a UNESCO World Heritage Site and it remains largely roadless. There are no private cars or standard motor vehicles allowed in Lamu town, and its infrastructure has been shaped around narrow alleyways and footpaths. Transport within the town is conducted on foot, donkey, or small handcarts. Donkeys are the traditional and still widely used form of goods transport, and the town maintains a donkey sanctuary to care for the working animals, which are a vital part of local logistics. There's a few motorized vehicles on the island, but these are confined to the airport area on Menda Island or used for government and emergency purposes. Even then, they're not used in the main urban areas. Their buildings here are made from coral stone and mangrove timber, forming a distinct style. The town includes mosques, markets, residences, and schools, all accessible only by walking or riding. The town supports a population of around 25,000 people and it receives thousands of tourists annually. The local economy here is based on tourism, fishing, and artisanal crafts, and boat transport is essential for connecting Lamu to the mainland and other parts of the archipelago. But despite its limited infrastructure, they have schools, health facilities, and an active civic life. All services operate within the context of foot or donkey-based transportation. Emergency evacuations for medical issues are done through boat or arranged through the airport on a neighboring island. The lack of roads here has helped preserve the town's heritage and restrict commercial development that might otherwise have led to the replacement of these areas. Lamu demonstrates how a traditional settlement can maintain a no-road model while also continuing to operate as a populated, viable urban space. The reliance on boats and walking paths rather than roads has enabled it to sustain itself culturally for centuries. Number 8. Hydra, Greece. Hydra is an island town located in the Gulf of Greece, about 90 minutes by ferry from Athens. The entire island is officially car-free. There's no roads suitable for vehicles, and internal transport is handled entirely by walking, water taxis, or donkeys. This restriction applies to residents, tourists, and even commercial services. The decision to prohibit these vehicles is both historic and enforced by local regulations. Their narrow stone-paved paths were never designed to accommodate vehicles, and the island's topography includes hills and tight alleyways. The town's traditional character has been preserved in part by its transportation limitations. Donkeys and mules are used for transporting construction materials, groceries, luggage, and supplies, and handcarts and human porters also handle a significant amount of movement, especially for commercial deliveries. All incoming visitors arrive by ferry or private boat at the harbor, which serves as kind of a main hub of activity on the island. From there, they walk to their destination or arrange for a donkey porter service to carry their luggage to the hotels. Hydra's population here is about 2,000 permanent residents, though this increases significantly during the tourist season. Despite the small size, the town includes schools, municipal buildings, churches, art galleries, even shops. All daily activities, including waste collection and mail delivery, is adapted to the no-road structure. Garbage is picked up using mules or hand carts, and it's moved to collection areas on the outskirts of the main settlement. Emergency services are adapted to the island's conditions. Medical emergencies are typically handled by boat transport to the mainland, and there's a health center for basic care there. Fire services rely on portable equipment and coordinated community efforts due to the limited access, and communication and emergency response plans take the island's limitations into account. Hydra's ban on roads and vehicles is not just a result of its geography, it is a deliberate effort to maintain a slower pace of life and to preserve the unique cultural qualities of the island. The town operates effectively with its no-road model and offers a quiet environment where walking is the default. Hydra demonstrates that small-scale, tourism-driven communities can thrive without internal roads, especially when local policy supports infrastructure that adapts to traditional forms of transport. Moving on to number 7, Aogashima, Japan. Aogashima, it's a volcanic island and village located in the Philippine Sea, under the jurisdiction of Tokyo Prefecture in Japan. Though it is administered as part of the Tokyo Metropolitan Government, Aogashima lies approximately 350 kilometers south of central Tokyo, making it one of the most remote inhabited islands in the country. With a population of fewer than 200 people, it has no true road network and no vehicles available for public use. Most transportation on the island is done on foot or through small scooters, but the absence of road connections to the mainland or any ferry dock that can accommodate vehicles places it among the few inhabited communities that operate functionally without roads. There is no harbor that supports any large vessels or vehicle ferries here. Boats can dock only when the sea is calm, which makes access by water unreliable, and the island's steep cliffs makes construction of a traditional ferry port impractical. Air access is available through a small heliport service by Tokyo Island Shuttle, and from there, larger ships and aircraft connect to Tokyo and the rest of mainland Japan. To get there, helicopter flights take about 20 minutes, and it's weather dependent, of course, often canceled in poor conditions. The absence of traditional roads is not a result of deliberate environmental policy, but it's due to geological constraints. The terrain is uneven, volcanic, and in parts unstable. Flat, buildable land is extremely limited here, and road construction is made difficult by the steep slopes leading down from the caldera rim. But despite its remote location and lack of roads, it remains inhabited year-round. The government offers subsidies and supports to encourage families to remain here, including funding for school operations and regular shipments of essential goods. And the island's become a niche tourist destination, attracting visitors who are interested in geology, hiking, and, of course, isolation. The island has one of the lowest traffic densities of any inhabited place in Japan, not due to regulation, but because there's no cars and nowhere for them to go. There's little to no commercial development on the island, and zoning regulations limit the types of buildings and their locations to reduce geological risk and environmental impact. The isolation of the island is both its greatest challenge and its defining feature. The limited access influences everything from food supply to healthcare, from education to communication. But within those limits, it functions. It remains a living community, a part of a global nation, yet largely separate from the infrastructure that defines most modern settlements. The absence of roads is not an obstacle to overcome, but a condition of life on the edge of an ancient caldera surrounded by sea. And for over 150 people, that's enough. Number 6. Wadi Halfa, Sudan. Wadi Halfa, it's a remote border town located in northern Sudan, and it's situated on the eastern bank of Lake Nubia, the Sudanese name for the southern portion of Lake Nasser. Historically an important transportation hub during colonial and post-colonial periods, Wadi Halfa today remains isolated and severely limited in road infrastructure. The local transportation system here is based almost entirely on foot traffic, informal trails, riverboats, and limited rail service. For most practical purposes, Wadi Halfa functions as a town with minimal to no internal roads. Now, the road that technically connects Wadi Halfa to the rest of Sudan is primarily a desert tract rather than a maintained highway. It's navigable by heavy-duty vehicles under favorable conditions, but it's often rendered impassable by sand drift, weather, or disrepair. The local economy here in Wadi Halfa centers on trade, fishing, small-scale agriculture, and cross-border commerce with Egypt. There's a ferry terminal that connects Aswan, Egypt to across Lake Nubia, and this ferry route remains a key supply and passenger corridor. Most people and goods entering or exiting Wadi Halfa do so via this lake. Electricity, telecommunications, other important utilities are inconsistent here, and electricity is often provided by small diesel generators, and running water is limited to certain parts of town. There's a rail connection that technically links Wadi Halfa to the national railway grid, but its use is sporadic. Freight trains are infrequent and passenger services are limited, subject to cancellations and long delays. People disembark and continue their journey on foot when they use them. There's no private car dealerships here, no car repair shops, and no formal driving school in the town, and few vehicles that are present are typically owned by the government agencies or aid organizations and are stored at secured locations near the ferry terminal and railway yard. It's also worth noting that Wadi Halfa is one of the only urban settlements along the western edge of Lake Nubia that continues to receive both national and international attention due to its position. This status has made it strategically important, but has not translated into consistent investment. Occasionally, high-level visits from politicians and officials bring temporary improvements like grading of paths or installations of new equipment, but these are usually short-lived and don't result in structural changes to the road network. While technically connected to the outside world, the town's daily operations rely on foot traffic, river transport, and rail. Almost no internal use of cars or road-based logistics, it remains a functioning but constrained settlement where the absence of roads defines both its challenges and its uniqueness. Number 5. St. Helena, the British Overseas Territory. St. Helena is one of the most remote inhabited islands, located in the South Atlantic Ocean over 1,900 kilometers west of Angola and 4,000 kilometers east of Brazil. It's a British overseas territory with a very small population of about 4,500 people. Although technically there are a few paved roads between the districts and administrative areas, the vast majority of the island has no functional roads. Its layout was never designed for modern vehicles. The capital, Jamestown, is a narrow settlement built in a deep ravine with limited space for roads. Most of the internal movement here happens along narrow pedestrian paths and staircases. One such path, Jacob's Ladder, consists of 699 steps leading up the mountainside, and it remains one of the only ways to reach the upper district of Half Tree Hollow by foot. Outside of Jamestown, access to other settlements like Longwood, Sandy Bay, and Levelwood is possible via narrow, winding asphalt roads, but within these communities, individual residences are often only reachable by walking. Before 2017, the only way to reach St. Helena was by sea. The RMS St. Helena provided passenger and cargo service to and from Cape Town, South Africa on a 2-week voyage. And this maritime isolation contributed to their slow development of road infrastructure. One of the most defining characteristics of their transportation system is the way it preserves legacy routes. Walking paths that were carved into hillsides centuries ago remain in use today. Community footpaths are used from everything from daily commutes to ceremonial processions. For example, local festivals and commemorative walks follow these ancient trails rather than detour onto paved surfaces. St. Helena's case differs from car-free cities by design, such as Zermatt or Venice. Here, a lack of road network is not a matter of policy or tourism branding, but a reflection of the island's geological constraints. Nevertheless, it achieves the same result, a community that functions daily without the presence of significant vehicles. There's no foreseeable plan to significantly expand the road system here. Climate conditions, funding, and logistical difficulty continue to reinforce the current state of transportation. And for now, the likely long-term, St. Helena will remain a rare example of a modern community that operates almost entirely without an internal road system, relying instead on its feet, its rails, and its ability to make do with what it has. Number 4. Iquitos, Peru. Iquitos is a city of over 400,000 people located in the northeastern region of Peru, deep within the Amazon rainforest. It is the largest city in the world that can't be reached by road. There are no highways, no overland connections that link Iquitos to the rest of the Peruvian road network, and the city's entirely isolated by jungle and water. Its only access points are by air or boat. The city sits at the confluence of the Amazon, the Nene, and the Ataya rivers. These rivers serve as the city's lifelines, supporting both the transportation of goods and the movement of people. Large cargo boats, passenger ferries, and small motorized canoes known as pekpeks are in constant use. Boats from Brazil, Colombia, and interior Peru arrive daily carrying fuel, construction materials, produce, and manufactured goods. The roads in Iquitos end at the edge of the jungle or the riverbanks. Because there's no land access to any other cities, flying here, of course, is the primary means of long-distance travel. The city's served by Secada Viñeta International Airport, which has direct flights to Lima and other regional hubs, and the travel time from Iquitos to the nearest major city by river can range from 2 days to over a week, depending on the destination and vessel type. Despite its isolation, though, it operates as a regional commercial center. It is the capital of the Loreto region and supports a network of smaller towns and indigenous communities. Public administration faces constant challenges in delivering services across such a fragmented region. The Loreto region is vast, larger than Germany, but has almost no road network. The government operates by boats for supply runs and maintains a fleet of river ambulances. Iquitos itself serves as the central warehouse and administrative base for these operations, despite its own constraints. There are regular discussions at both regional and national levels about connecting Iquitos to the broader Peruvian road system. These proposals include highways, which would require large-scale construction through protected rainforest. Opponents of these projects cite environmental degradation, illegal logging risks, and displacement of indigenous communities. Proponents argue for lower transportation costs and improve access to services. For now, though, no permanent land connection exists. Iquitos demonstrates that a city can grow, sustain services, and maintain regional influence without traditional connectivity, and it highlights the complexities required to make that possible. Number 2. La Esmeralda, Venezuela. La Esmeralda, a small, isolated settlement located in the Venezuelan Amazon, serving as the capital of the Alto Orinoco municipality in the Amazonas state. It's on the banks of the Orinoco River, near to the border with Brazil, and functions without any road connections. As such, it remains one of the few inhabited places in South America that operates completely without them, external or internal. The only means of reaching it are by river or air. It does have a small airstrip, La Esmeralda Airport, which accommodates light aircraft. These flights are infrequent and primarily used for government personnel, missionaries, and aid workers. La Esmeralda is home to a few thousand people, many of whom are part of indigenous ethnic groups. The town serves as a logistical hub for this part of the Amazon and provides limited government services like education, healthcare, and law enforcement. However, the absence of roads means that all local movements happen on foot, by boat, or with the help of small canoes. This roadless nature significantly impacts its economy. Most commerce is based on subsistence activities including fishing, small-scale agriculture, hunting and gathering, and bartering remains a key aspect of trade, especially in areas where currency is scarce. External commerce is pretty minimal due to the costs and risks associated with importing goods via river or air, and the price of basic necessities like cooking oil, fuel, and clothing is often many times higher than in urban areas. The community's resilience here has grown out of these conditions. Residents are deeply familiar with their environment and adapt practices accordingly. Canoes are hand-carved from tree trunks, and fishing techniques use traditional nets and bait. Homes are elevated on stilts to mitigate flooding, and knowledge of seasonal river behavior is passed down through the generations. Despite the adaptations, though, the lack of road access continues to limit their opportunities. Communication with the outside world is also limited to shortwave radio and sporadic mobile signals that depend on weather and equipment functionality. There's no current plan to build a road to La Esmeralda. Political instability, economic collapse, and environmental policy constraints all prevent meaningful expansion. So, La Esmeralda exemplifies a fully inhabited community that exists without the presence of roads. It's one of the few places in the Americas where the absence of them is not a temporary condition, but a permanent defining feature. Number 1. Tabarca Island in Spain. Off the Mediterranean coast of southeastern Spain is a small, quiet island that stands out not for its size, population, or landmarks, but for its simplicity. Tabarca Island, officially known as Nueva Tabarca, is the smallest permanently inhabited islet in Spain and one of the country's only communities with no roads or motor vehicles. It's located just 22 kilometers from the city of Alicante. Tabarca is a car-free zone by necessity and by design. Its narrow footpaths, stone walkways, and dimensions make roads not only unnecessary, but impossible to implement. The island is part of a small archipelago, though Tabarca itself is the only one that supports a human population. It measures about 1,800 meters in length and up to 400 meters in width at its widest. This limited landmass naturally shapes the infrastructure and the scale of daily life. There's no paved streets or highways and no room for vehicles to navigate. The absence of roads is not due to underdevelopment or poverty. On the contrary, it's a result of both geographic limitations and preservation decisions. As a recognized marine reserve, Tabarca has strict environmental protections in place. In its current state, it functions primarily as a seasonal tourist destination. The permanent population hovers between 50 to 100 people, depending on the season, and through the summer months this number swells dramatically. The absence of cars has helped preserve the atmosphere and layout of their original village. Many homes are traditional whitewashed Mediterranean dwellings with terracotta roofs, often just 1 or 2 stories tall. And the lack of roads creates a uniquely quiet landscape. Apart from the occasional boat engine at the harbor or distant voices of a crowded cafe, there's almost a total absence of mechanical noise. Tourism, while essential to the island's economy, is carefully managed to avoid overwhelming the infrastructure. Overnight accommodations are limited to a few small inns and family-run guest houses. Most visitors arrive in the morning and leave by late afternoon. The schedule reduces the need for any extended transport or facilities, allowing the island to maintain its low-impact profile. Education is pretty minimal on the island. There's a small school building. It typically operates with only a few students or in coordination with educational services from the mainland. And many of the younger residents attend school in Santa Pola or Alicante. Despite the challenges, though, residents here often express satisfaction with their quiet and roadless environment. The pace of life is slower, and there's a strong sense of community. Everyone knows each other, and the absence of cars contributes to the frequent social interaction. Tabarca Island exemplifies how geography and policy can combine to create a fully functional community without roads. Its compact size, environmental protections, and cultural heritage have all contributed to a way of life centered on walking and simplicity. In a world increasingly dominated by cars and sprawling infrastructure, Tabarca offers a reminder that some places still thrive with neither. The result is a village that remains grounded in the past and protected for the future, one quiet step at a time.